Today, for this deep dive, we're focusing specifically on some key excerpts from a text called Essentials of Practicing Buddhism Part 2.
Right. And our goal today is really to unpack the core ideas in this text, break them down a bit, and connect them to, well, everyday life, the wins, the frustrations, those moments you wonder about farness.
We want to offer you a kind of practical shortcut, maybe, to understanding these powerful concepts and seeing how they might actually apply in your own life.
And just a reminder, the Deep Dive is a non-profit initiative. We're just here to share knowledge and hopefully foster some understanding.
Okay, let's dive in.
So the text kicks off with this idea that might sound a bit lofty. Seeing one's true nature. What does Master Lu actually mean by that in this context?
It sounds complex, yeah, but the text grounds it pretty well. Seeing here isn't just, looking with your eyes. It's more like understanding something deeply, a profound recognition.
Okay, recognition.
And your nature is your inherent nature, your fundamental quality, the essence of who you are beneath all the temporary thoughts and feelings that cloud things up.
So seeing your true nature is truly understanding your own fundamental essence. How do you even start doing that?
Well, according to this text, it's through really understanding your own thoughts. It actually says, after seeing one's true nature, the light of wisdom is revealed.
Ah, okay.
So it suggests wisdom isn't something you just find outside yourself. It's this internal light that shines once you understand your nature. And you get that understanding by observing, really comprehending your own thoughts.
Wow, that's powerful. Wisdom comes from understanding your thoughts. So what's the opposite then? What's not seeing your nature?
The text describes that as behaving shrewdly, but not shrewd like smart, necessarily. It's more like focusing only on the immediate thing, the short-term gain, maybe, and completely ignoring the longer-term consequences or, the deeper reality.
Right, like being driven by just what you want right now or some quick calculation.
Exactly. It's a kind of clouded vision. And the text uses a really memorable, maybe a bit stark example to show what it means to be unable to see your nature.
Oh, yeah, the line. Do you think that a drunk person is able to find their inherent nature? That one really sticks. What's the point there?
It's drawing a parallel, isn't it? Between being physically drunk and being, let's say, mentally or emotionally confused.
Okay.
Just like alcohol messes with your judgment, your self-awareness, how you see reality, the text suggests that being unawakened, confused by desire, anger, ego, or just not looking inwards, it fundamentally blocks you from seeing your true self, your inherent nature.
So in everyday life, when we're totally consumed by anger over something or fixated on getting something we want or just lost in worry, the text is saying that's like being mentally drunk. You can't see clearly.
That's exactly the idea.
Yeah.
That confusion, those strong, untamed emotions, they stop you from understanding your own underlying thoughts and motives.
Yeah.
And understanding your thoughts, according to this text, is the absolute first step to recognizing your nature and letting that wisdom shine through. It's about sobriety, yeah, but mental and spiritual sobriety.
Okay, so understanding our thoughts is step one. That feels foundational, like it connects to everything else. And speaking of connections, the text then moves into karma, a concept lots of people have heard of, but maybe not in this nuanced way. It starts basic. Good deeds lead to prosperity, evil deeds to misfortune. But like you said, it immediately adds layers, explaining why it doesn't always look that simple on the surface.
Yeah, exactly. Master Lu's text clarifies that what we experience now is this complex mix of past and present karma. That's why, you might see a genuinely good person going through a really tough time.
Right. Or the opposite, someone who seems to be acting poorly, but things are going great for them. Why is that? If good deeds bring good things, why would a kind person suffer?
Well, the text suggests it's not that the principle is wrong. It's that the good person might still be resolving negative karma from the past, maybe even previous lives. Think of it like having an old debt you have to pay off before you can really enjoy your current income.
Oh, okay.
Once that negative karma, that debt, is cleared, then the positive karma they're generating now with the good deeds can actually manifest as prosperity.
And for the person doing harmful things but seemingly thriving.
The text says the reverse applies. If someone's doing wrong but hasn't faced trouble yet, they're likely still coasting on positive karma from the past. Could be from past lives. Could even be ancestral merit, the text suggests.
Wow.
It uses some pretty stark examples, actually, noting that even people doing seriously bad things might still have periods where life seems okay if their past positive balance outweighs their current negative actions for that time.
It's like they're living on borrowed time or using up old savings of goodness. So that line, we reap what we sow, It's not just about this life. It can stretch across lifetimes with consequences ripening, like, slowly.
Precisely. The text really emphasizes that misfortune or prosperity happens when the accumulated karma ripens, when the balance of the old goods and bads hits a point where the results just have to show up. It's when those past positive blessings run out, basically, that the consequences of current negative actions really start to catch up.
So this raises a big question. How does this idea of past karma influencing the present help us make sense of, well, unfair situations, things we see or even experience ourselves? It's hard sometimes to square perceived injustice with cause and effect.
It offers a much broader view, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe our sense of unfairness is often just based on a snapshot, just what we can see right now.
Limited perspective.
Yeah. The text proposes we're seeing just one part of a much longer, more complex, karmic accounting system that goes beyond this single life. It gives a framework for why immediate results don't always perfectly match immediate actions. It suggests patience, maybe, trusting the longer process. And the text offers reassurance, too. It says, once your past hardships are done and your goods and bads are balanced out, blessings will follow.
So it shifts the focus, less about immediate reward and punishment, more about this long-term spiritual and karmic journey. But you mentioned something crucial, a precondition for sustained prosperity.
Yes, a really vital one. The text is clear. Even if past negative karma is cleared and your current good deeds start bringing prosperity, for that prosperity to last, you need true benevolence. Without genuine kindness and goodness at your core, even if blessings appear, they just won't stick around.
That adds another layer. It's not just about doing good things. It's about cultivating a good state of being. The actions come from that state.
Exactly. It really underlines that the internal quality is what matters most for lasting positive results.
Let's take a short break. When we return, we'll dive into one of the biggest inner obstacles highlighted in the text, hatred, and why letting it linger can deeply hinder the mind.
Okay, moving on. The text gives a really, really strong warning about one internal state in particular. Hatred. It says very directly, we should let go of hatred as it hinders the mind. How does it describe that hindering effect?
Well, hatred isn't just feeling bad at someone. The text portrays it as this powerful block in your mind. It shows up inside as anger, sure, but also anxiety, worry, sadness, jealousy, a whole list of things that cloud your judgment and stop clear thinking, stop peace.
Yeah, the text uses some intense imagery to get this across.
It really does. It says, when the fire of ignorance flares up, all merits will be burnt to ashes. So it directly links hatred, which it sees as a form of ignorance, to just destroying any good progress you've made spiritually.
Wow, burnt to ashes.
And then this one. When one thought of hatred arises, millions of doors of obstruction open up.
Millions of doors of obstruction. That paints such a vivid picture of how fast things can unravel.
It emphasizes this cascading negativity, right? According to the text, hatred is so bad because it doesn't just halt your progress. It actively works against you. It burns up your merits and basically opens the door for trouble and restlessness to flood in.
And the example it gives is so relatable, the one about skin discomfort.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a great illustration. It shows how an angry, anxious, fearful mind, one that's hindered by this ignorance or hatred, can take a simple physical thing, like a little itch or spot on your skin, and immediately leap to the worst possible conclusion. Oh no, it must be cancer.
Whereas someone with a calmer mind, less hindered, feels the same thing and thinks.
Maybe he thinks, insect bite. Weird. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, same external thing, totally different internal reaction and resulting anxiety level.
Exactly. It's the internal state, hindered or clear, that completely dictates how you interpret things.
That is so relatable. I mean, think how often a small comment from someone or a minor hassle or feeling slighted can just trigger this chain reaction of anger, resentment, negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Drains your energy, ruins your mood, and genuinely creates obstructions, right? Stops you from being productive or interacting well.
It shows these aren't just abstract spiritual problems. They have immediate, real effects on our clarity, our emotions, our relationships. Letting go of hatred is presented as, like, vital self-preservation, clearing the path for wisdom.
This connects so well to the next theme, the relationship between mind and body. The text makes a really strong claim. A person's mind determines their life, but tragically, many people let their bodies dictate their minds instead.
Yeah, this is shown as a fundamental imbalance. We have this rational intelligence, right? A spirit that can think high-level thoughts, use restraint. But the body? Well, the body has needs, cravings, impulses, comfort, pleasure, avoiding pain, getting stuff now.
And the text says most of us, or many of us, let those bodily pulls just overrule our rational mind. The example of the alcoholic is used pretty powerfully here.
It's a stark illustration, yeah. The alcoholic's mind knows, rationally, absolutely knows that drinking too much or driving drunk is harmful, dangerous, wrong. That's the mind's knowledge.
Clear as day.
But when the body's craving for alcohol gets overwhelming, that physical urge dictates the action. It overrules the mind's reason and leads straight to destructive behavior.
And the text broadens this out, right? It mentions bodily needs, desires for things like alcohol or sex, or just other distracting thoughts tied to physical urges or ego. These can become the boss, basically, dictating our rational thinking instead of being managed by it.
And this is where the text points out what's special about humans. It says we have this advanced intelligence, spirits capable of deep thought and reason. This ability to think is presented as part of our higher spirituality, something that sets us apart.
So having this ability means we have a responsibility to use it, especially for restraint.
Exactly. The text really emphasizes that we must use this thinking ability to exercise restraint over our spirits, to stop them from being dragged down or controlled by physical cravings, distracting thoughts, lower impulses. It's about the mind taking back control, being the determinant of our actions and therefore our life.
Okay, but how? How can we practically apply this when we're tempted? Whether it's small, like hitting snooze again, or bigger, like giving into a harmful craving or an impulse buy we know is dumb. That body pull feels so strong sometimes.
It is strong, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the text points to the power of that higher thinking ability.
Yeah.
A practical step. It's pausing.
Pausing.
Yeah. Recognizing the craving or the distracting thought for what it is, just a temporary impulse from the body or a lower mental state. Instead of just acting on it instantly, you engage the thinking, reasoning mind.
Mm-hmm.
You ask, wait, does this align with what I actually understand? Is this serving my higher self or just some fleeting urge?
Mm-hmm.
It's about activating that spiritual intelligence to apply restraint, even just for a moment, to create space for a wiser choice. It's a constant practice, really. Discernment and conscious choice.
That pause.
Yeah.
That feels critical. Creating space between impulse and action. Okay, so the text then shifts focus to outlining several key inner qualities we should actively cultivate. You group them as humility, joy, kindness, and compassion. These sound like the building blocks for that benevolent state we talked about earlier.
There really are. And they're not just presented as nice ideas to admire. They're framed as active practices that directly shape your inner state, your interactions, and, yeah, your whole karmic landscape.
Let's start with humility. What does the text say about cultivating that?
Well, it explains that striving for humility naturally leads you to self-reflection and, importantly, self-improvement. One method suggested is comparing yourself with good role models, observing positive examples to learn from.
Okay.
But there's a crucial warning here. The text says to be wary of that selfish thought that pops up when you see someone doing well, the one that whispers, their goodness makes you bad or less than. That thought, it says, comes from ego, not real self-reflection.
Ah, that's a really important distinction. So seeing someone embody qualities you admire should inspire you to develop them too, not make you feel jealous or inadequate. Like watching a great musician, you think, wow, amazing, what can I learn? Not, oh, I'm hopeless.
Precisely. It shifts the energy from negative comparison to positive aspiration. Okay, next up is joy. The text suggests using wisdom to overcome afflictions, sadness, difficulties.
Using joy as a tool against hardship, how does that work exactly?
The method it suggests is deliberately thinking of yourself as already more fortunate than others in various ways. It says doing this actively helps your mind shape a positive karmic affinity. It sort of creates a harmonious vibe around you, builds a positive energy field.
Well, it's not ignoring suffering, but consciously shifting your focus towards gratitude, maybe, recognizing blessings even when things are tough. And that act itself generates positive energy.
That seems to be the perspective in the text, yes. It's a conscious practice to influence your inner state, and through that, your outer experience and connections. Then we have a kindness and compassion. The text gives pretty clear definitions. Kindness is about bringing happiness to others,
Okay.
and compassion is about alleviating their suffering.
What are the signs, according to the text, that someone is actually cultivating these?
It lists some tangible things. genuinely caring for others, thinking about their well-being consistently, being friendly, and this is important, not at getting angry.
Ah, that loops right back to the warning about hatred we talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The text repeats that hatred is dreadful because it just undoes all the good work, all the merits you gain from practicing kindness and compassion. It attracts trouble, restlessness. So cultivating kindness and compassion is basically the way to dismantle hatred's power inside you and create the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Peace, harmony, positive connections.
Let's pause here for a moment. After the break, we'll explore how to actually live these teachings, how to work with your karma and build the kind of spiritual momentum that lasts.
So, based on this text, these qualities, humility, joy, kindness, compassion, they're not just nice ideas. They're vital, active practices that are essential for navigating life well and making real spiritual progress.
They're presented as fundamental tools, yeah. The text explicitly says wisdom arises through developing kindness and compassion. These qualities are seen as generating the positive karmic energy and the inner state you need for a better life and continued spiritual growth.
Okay, so bringing all this together, the text offers some practical advice on how to actually manage this complex web of karma and cultivation. It talks about acting in accordance with karmic conditions and also forming connections with others. Let's break down that first part, acting in accordance with karmic conditions.
Right, this point has two really crucial sides to it. First, you need to deal with and clear your past karma. And you do that by responding appropriately to the conditions that arise in your life. That means facing both the good stuff and the bad stuff, the positive and negative affinities, interactions, situations that come your way with wisdom, acceptance, and working through them.
Okay, facing what comes up. And the second part sounds critical for the future.
Yes, and it's presented as incredibly important. While you're navigating and resolving the past stuff, you must stop yourself from creating new negative karma right now, in the present.
Don't dig a deeper hole.
Exactly. The text warns pretty starkly that piling new negative actions and thoughts onto uncleared past karma makes your future path way harder. It can cause you to sink further into difficulty, is the idea.
So it's like a two-front effort to clean up the past mess while being super careful not to make a new one today. How does that look moment to moment in daily life?
It means when something challenging happens, someone's difficult, a plan goes wrong, you face a setback instead of that automatic reaction. Anger, frustration, blame, maybe even nasty thoughts.
Which would create new negative karma.
Right. Instead of that, you consciously choose to respond wisely. You try to handle the situation with patience, maybe understanding if you can manage it, or just restraint, acting in a way that resolves the current condition without generating more negativity, like choosing compassion or patience over snapping back when someone's being difficult, for example.
That makes sense. Deal with the hand you're dealt from the past, but don't rack up more debt for the future. Okay, and the last point ties this all together in maybe an unexpected way. Cultivating the mind, developing these qualities, managing karma. It isn't just an internal solo job. The text says it requires extensive affinities and connections with other people. Why? Why bring connecting with people into it alongside clearing karma and inner work? How does that fit?
Well, according to the text, these connections, these affinities, aren't just side effects. They're actually a necessary foundation, an environment that actively enhances your cultivation efforts.
So positive relationships aren't just a nice bonus of personal growth. They're actually like a support system for it.
That's exactly the idea. They give you chances to practice kindness and compassion, right?
Yeah.
They can offer support, inspiration, building positive connections, and importantly, helping others, creates this positive feedback loop. It reinforces that benevolent state you're aiming for and generates that positive energy field the text talks about. It grounds the inner work in the real world, in collaboration. It really stresses that this journey towards wisdom and harmony is deeply tied up with our relationships.
That really broadens the picture, doesn't it? It's not just about your own individual effort, but also about the collective field we're all in and contributing to.
It highlights the very holistic nature of the practice described in this text.
Okay, wow. This has been a really, really insightful deep dive into essentials of practicing Buddhism Part 2.
And these concepts, drawn from Master Lu's teachings here, they aren't presented as just abstract ideas, are they? They're offered as practical guides for navigating all the complexities of everyday life, giving you a framework maybe to gain more wisdom, understand those apparent contradictions, and cultivate more harmony inside and out.
So to leave you with a thought to ponder, building on all this, especially that idea of connections and not creating new negative karma, just consider how one small conscious choice today, maybe responding with patience instead of snapping back in a tricky interaction, or actively choosing gratitude when something small goes wrong. How might that not just resolve a present karmic condition, but also build positive affinity and maybe close a potential door of obstruction for your future? How might that tiny choice ripple out?
Yeah, as you reflect on this, maybe think about which of these points really resonated with you today.
If you'd like to learn more about Master Jun Hong Lu's teachings, or if you have questions from this deep dive, you can find more resources and ways to connect in the show notes for this episode.
And we always love hearing from you. If there are other topics you'd like the deep dive to explore in the future, please do feel free to email us.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.